I'm back, baby. Did you miss me? Here to talk about another show. Now, this is a show I've already watched, so this is a show I probably talked about in one of my reviews already, but I'm going to talk about it again because I keep seeing edits and it's making me be like, oh my gosh, I need to talk about the show again. So, I'll say pink hair. Woo. Fun. She's crazy. She's not like other girls. She's different. She dyes her hair pink. Okay, I'm done. Sorry. Anyways, okay. The show is called Twinkling Watermelon. Okay. Bit of a silly title. But basically it's about this guy that goes back in time and meets his 18-year-old parents. Okay? So that's like the basic plot. So basically this guy is the only hearing person in his family. Both his parents are deaf and his brother's deaf. So he spent a lot of his life and a lot of his childhood kind of taking care of his family. His parents are good parents. I should specify that. They're good parents, but obviously, yes, there are things that the son does, and because of that, he has a lot of pressure on his life, and like the one thing he wants to do is like play music. His dad ends up finding out because he's been hiding it. That's a big thing. It's like he's been hiding it. None of his family knows that he plays music or even likes music. And his dad finds out and is really upset. I think mostly just because he lied and like was hiding it or whatever. And they get into this big oh my gosh, excuse me. They get into this big argument, and the son says some things that are just, like, really terrible. Also, obviously, he physically says them, but he also signs them as well, to his dad. And so then he storms off, and he goes to sell his guitar because he's so mad, and he ends up in this magical guitar shop, and it sends him back to, like, I think it's, like, 1994, 1995, something like that. Whatever the age it would have been, I just can't remember the date he gets sent back to, and he ends up interacting with his dad, who's the same age as him, who's 18, and he's like, of course, freaking out, like, Dad, is that you? And then, of course, his dad is like, who is this random? Who is this guy? Who is this random person, right? And so they end up getting past the weirdness of it. They end up actually becoming friends and starting a band together with the dad's, like, other group of friends. And then the son finds out that the dad actually has a crush on a different girl. And so he's like, oh my gosh, that can't happen. Like, my parents have to meet so I can exist. Me and my brother can exist. So then his whole goal is to try to break them up. And he keeps telling his dad, like, you need to go meet this person, Yoon Cheong-Ah, which is his mom's name. And the dad is like, who is that? I don't know who that is. Like, I've never met this person. Who are you talking about? Because I think this is where it gets a little confusing. Because I think in the original timeline they met in college, like the parents did. But because the son goes back in time to like high school, he's just still trying to get them he's trying to get them together, whatever. But at this point in the timeline, they haven't even met and wouldn't have met for a while. But anyway, so his dad has a crush on this girl. And then one day because she like plays like the violin or the cello or some instrument, I can't remember, and she's like really good at it or whatever, and she's like really serious and like low-key just depressed, right? And so she goes abroad, and so the son is like, oh my gosh, finally she's out of here, she's not here anymore. However, she pops back in, but she seems a little bit different. She has shorter hair, she's a bit spunkier, she's like happier, just different personality, right? Just seems different. Something happened, something changed. And unfortunately, the son starts to like her. And when I'm watching this show, I'm going, this is so freaking weird. Because in real life, or not in real life, in the present time, in his time that he's from, 2022 or whatever it was, this woman is like 40-something and married. So I was like, this just is so weird. And he obviously has that thought process and tells himself that, but inevitably he does end up falling for her. And she ends up liking him too. I need to point that out. Now, here's where it could get really creepy, but it actually ends up being okay, but it's still weird. So, when she went abroad, okay, the daughter in the present time, because that woman, right, in the present time, 40, married, has a daughter who looks identical to her, who's also the same actress, because obviously they can't get someone who looks like the actress, so they said, you're just gonna play your mom and yourself. Anyways, so she, the daughter of this woman, ends up going back in time for whatever. She ends up going back in time, and she pretends to be her mom. So the girl that the son has a crush on is someone who's they're the same age. He obviously just doesn't know that that's her, And I don't think she doesn't know he's from the future either. So she also thinks she has a crush on like a 40-year-old man. So it's like weird, right? They have a weird dynamic from the beginning. They also have this like kind of bickering dynamic, which I personally didn't like nor care for. I was just like, I don't care. You guys aren't interesting enough to me, whatever. And it was just weird because for most of the show, I was like, you guys have crushes on like 40-year-old people. And it was weird. But the main reason, I don't know if you saw that, my coffee just sprayed everywhere. The main reason I didn't like her, now here's the main reason. So some could say that the son's desire to make sure his parents end up together, if you were looking at it from the angle of like, he only wants to make sure it happens because he wants to exist, right? And his brother to exist. I suppose in some context you could say he's being a little bit selfish, but I think trying to keep the existence of yourself a thing is not a bad thing to be selfish about. The reason that the girl, the woman or whatever, comes back and wants to, like, is pretending to be her mom, right, is because she wants to kill herself so that her future self doesn't exist. She wants to die so that her future self doesn't exist. She wants to make it that her parents, I think she wanted to make it that her parents never got together, so then she would never exist. So she essentially just wants to kill herself. It's so weird. It's so weird. And so from the get-go, Girly comes in with the worst, arguably, at least his was like kind of made sense. Hers is just literally like, I just don't want to exist. And it's like, okay, Queen, I get you're depressed, but like, it was just very selfish. And I just really I just couldn't connect with her character the entire show. I really didn't like her. And I also just didn't like her because she kept getting in the way of the parents, like, getting together. And she kept getting in the way of the son's, like, mission to get his parents back together. It was just so annoying. She was just such a freaking nuisance. And I was just like, go away! I was so sick of her character. The whole show. I just didn't like her. And I was trying not to be like that. Like, I was trying really hard to be like, okay, I kind of understand where she's coming from, but I was like, no, I just can't stand her. And here's why. Because the son and her obviously have a thing and they end up together, whatever. Boring, tomato, tomato, no one cares. It wasn't interesting. Because when we compare it to the relationship that the dad and the mom have when they finally do meet and they finally do interact, I don't know why the writers thought that anyone would be interested in the first couple's story when you introduce the second couple, because they have some of the best, just like sweetest, most intriguing interactions that I've seen in a show. Because so she's deaf. That's a big thing. Because remember I said the parents are deaf. Now, one thing that happens with the dad way, way, way later on is he does end up actually becoming deaf in like high school, whereas the mom was born deaf. And then obviously in the original timeline, when they met in, like, college, he was already deaf. But when they meet in the high school timeline of, like, where the show takes place, he still can hear. And that's, like, a big thing. It's because he's a musician. He loves to sing. He loves to play instruments. It's actually a very sad arc, but also a very interesting arc, because you know that his future ends up being so good with his, like, family and his wife that he loves so much. But he does have to, like, bro, this scene, this is me going on a tangent. This scene when he can't hear is so sad. He like wakes up and he's like, I can't hear. And he's like, but it was also just like, she was the perfect person for him to like need in his life, because obviously she could understand not being able to hear. Anyways, whatever. So every interaction that those two have is few. They don't interact that often in the show. Like, genuinely, the mom doesn't even pop into the show until like, I don't know, like episode like 4 or 5. Like, she's not even in the show for a few episodes. Or if she is, she's like in it for like 5 seconds, and then you don't see her. And when he first meets her, the dad doesn't know she's deaf because he's a little bit stupid. I love him so much. He's a little bit of a himbo. Like, he's a little dumb, but he's so sweet that I love him so much. So he says some stupid things. You know, at one point she's like walking and she obviously can't hear, this car's behind her honking at her. So he like pulls her out of the way and he's like, what's wrong with you? Like, what? You have to move when there's a car. Are you deaf? And then she gets mad at him, of course, because she's like a jerk. And then him being, again, so dumb, doesn't know she's deaf. So then he hears that she's deaf and he feels so bad. And he's like, and then he apologizes to her or whatever. This man learns sign language so he can talk to her because they like become friends, right? He learns sign language and he carries this book around with him and so he can like communicate with her. So he learns how to sign and their relationship is just the sweetest, purest, like the chemistry, they're so cute and he's so genuine and she's so sweet. And when you find out her backstory of her family, crazy. Girl was basically just like abused her whole life because her mom, I don't remember if her mom left or her mom died. I think her mom left for some reason. I think her mom died. I couldn't remember. I think her mom died and so she obviously was born deaf. And she had a sign language instructor that she loved, and then they like fired her for some reason because she's like really rich, and they got rid of that lady who was like also kind of like a mom to her, and so that was really traumatizing. And then the dad gets remarried to this absolute witch, terrible woman who won't allow her to sign, so she loses any like practice she had of signing, doesn't know how to sign, so she has no way of communicating with anybody in her family. And her dad is also just like kind of like absent, like on business trips and stuff, and he's a confusing character because he does love his daughter, but he also like messed up kind of a lot, but at the same time he does love her and he does get a little bit of redemption arc. They get a little bit of redemption arc, whatever. But what ends up happening and how the interactions happen, it's actually, and this is the other part of the story that's really sweet, it's so the son, right, he ends up meeting his mom and he's like, oh my gosh, I know her. And because he knows sign language, obviously, he teaches his mom sign language. It's so sweet and so cute. And there's also just this one scene where like, so when she was like being bad, which of course she wasn't actually being bad, she just didn't have any way to communicate with her family, her stepmom would lock her in this like dark attic, okay, and just leave her in there for hours and hours. And she does that when she's older at one point because the son, so because he teaches her sign language, he ends up like, he's like a live-in teacher, so he lives in the house with her in like one of their like mini guest rooms or whatever, but he ends up finding his mom in one of the rooms where she's locked in, and he gets her out and he's like, you know, super awesome, super slay, go save his mom. And she like, I think, I'm trying to remember what she signs. I think she signs something like you came for me, or like you came to get me or whatever. And he hugs her and then looks at the wall, and she has all these like paintings and drawings that she did for the hours and hours and years she was trapped in that stupid like the attic room where the stepmom would put her. And it was so sad but also so sweet that the son is like the one that goes and helps her. I just love it. Also, this is just me just talking about random things. There's this one part where I can't remember why, but for some reason she was arguing with her stepmom, but she's signing, of course, because at this point she knows how to sign, so she's like angrily signing at her, you know, slaying as she does it. And the stepmom's like just being horrible, and so the stepmom slaps her, and I was like, because they're just like arguing, and I was like, oh my gosh, be so for real. Then she slaps her back, and it is so crazy satisfying. I don't think you understand, because she doesn't take it, because I hate it in shows when a character gets slapped and they just take it and they don't do anything. I was like, girl, slap her back. And so when she does, I was literally like, slay. And not to mention, I just really like the actress. She's so freaking cute. She's such a good actress. And for not talking the entire show, except for her like inner dialogue, which is the actress's voice, obviously, but like she doesn't physically talk at any point. She has such an expressive face and she's such a good actress because she doesn't talk the entire show. And yet, you know every emotion she's feeling. You can see everything. And why would I ever look at the main couple when I had those two in front of me? And I remember when the show was coming out and I was reading a lot of comments about people talking about her character and being like, where is she? I want to watch her. I want to watch those two. Like, I want to see them. And people would be like, oh, well, you know, the book, I think it was based off like a webtoon or a book or something. And they're like, well, the book, she's not even really like in the story. And I was like, well, that's a disservice to the audience because she's the best character. She's genuinely has the most interesting story, and her arc is so interesting, and like her relationship with her soon-to-be husband is like so freaking cute and sweet. And Their first kiss is so cute and sweet, and the way it happens, and it's so, oh my gosh, it was so sweet. It's so adorable, and I love them so much. Anyways, that's kind of all I have to say about that show. I spent way more talking about the couple that I didn't like than the couple that I did like, but either way, I just wanted to talk about this show, so it worked out. I'm trying to think if there was another show or something I wanted to talk about, but I don't think there is. So I think that's it. Yeah, man. Great show. I need those two to be in a drama again, though, because I'm like, I need to see their interactions. Also, I need the girl that I really didn't like in the show, I need her to be in a show I do like. I've watched her in, like, 3 or 4 different shows, and truthfully, I think the only time I liked her was in Business Proposal. She's the second female lead in Business Proposal. She was fine in that show. Bro, but in, like, everything else she's in, she's just insufferable. I don't know why they write her as the most annoying character ever. And fortunately, she's very good at being really annoying. Which, I kind of respect actors that are, like, really good at playing annoying characters. But I'm like, man, I'm so annoyed. Anyways, I think that's all I have to say. Okay. You don't even want to know how many times this video took, like how many takes I took of this video, and there was no reason. It just took me forever. Anyways, okay, bye.